Oh, Rugby League, you always find a way to pull me back into covering you some way, somehow. Think Rugby League is dead in Toronto after the Wolfpack? Think again. It's thriving in Ontario, doing quite well. And one of the oldest Rugby League teams in Ontario is going south. On April 1st, the Toronto City Saints will be taking on Cleveland Rugby League, one of a few games they'll play this year. So to discuss the City Saints and their plans, I welcome onto the podcast the Director of Development, Andrew Giguere. So sit back, relax, and enjoy our chat.
Yeah, things are going pretty well on my end. Thanks for having me. Really looking forward to this chat.
No, of course, I want to have you on and talk about the Toronto City Saints. And of course, you guys are going on to Cleveland on April 1st and you're playing Cleveland Rugby League. What does it mean to, first of all, what does it mean to get out of the COVID era and have games again, be able to play an opposing team across the border again?
Yeah, I think for us, COVID put a bit of a stall in rugby league and put a bit of a stall in most recreational sports there. We're really looking forward to it. We got the opportunity to go down to Boston last fall, play Boston. We beat them pretty well. So we're looking to go 2-2 against American teams, and we're really excited to take on Monte and Cleveland Rugby League.
No, of course, and that's amazing. That's awesome. You guys went down to play Boston. What does it meant? Of course, rugby league. It's a code game that got a big boost back in 2016 with the establishment of the Toronto Wolfpack, and we know their story quite well. But how important has it been for the Saints, Andrew, to say, hey, we know the Wolfpack, I guess, are no longer a thing right now, but we still want people to watch rugby league and be involved. How important is it now for this team to try and gain momentum from the Wolfpack into getting eyes to following the Saints going forward now?
Yeah, that's exactly what we're trying to do. We're trying to fill the void. We know that there's a big contingent of Toronto, especially in that Liberty Village, that enjoy the Wolfpack games, the atmosphere. And we're that Toronto team, the Toronto City Saints, so we're going to showcase some good performances down in the States, and we've got some teams coming up here this summer. So I'm looking forward to showcasing Toronto City Saints Rugby League and to all of the Wolfpack fans.
Nice. Being down there at Lamport, it was always fun watching the Wolfpack and see what they're doing. And of course, now we're seeing more Canadians getting involved in the game, over a long time, Andrew. Most Canadians really only knew, and I guess still to an extent, we only knew rugby union. How important is it now to, get a league in more Canadians' minds now? Because when a lot of my friends who watch first time, when they watch Wolfpack games, they realize, wow, rugby league is interesting, it's faster, it's easier to understand. How important now is, to keep the momentum going and tell fans that league is here and league is a code that you should really get involved in and watch, or even try and play somehow.
Yeah, you're exactly right. League's an easier transition. You watch CFL, you can transition to league pretty quickly.
It's true.
When you watch rugby union, there's the rocks and the scrums, and there's a bit more gameplay that you wouldn't understand as a non-traditional fan. So when we get people watch the sport, oh geez, this is hard hitting, it's fast, it's easy to follow. So yeah, we're trying to capitalize on that and keep people interested in the Wolfpack, and now have them interested in us, the Saints.
Of course. One thing though, if the Wolfpack were a team that was built more on getting the bigger names from, or former NRL players, former Super League players, how big is it now for the Saints to try and get more Canadian talent or North American talent playing? Because it would be great for us to eventually develop our own stars in the sport who are Canadian. They can play for the Saints and can go on and play in other parts of the world at a higher level.
Yeah, that's exactly one of the things we're trying to do. Right now on the Saints, we have 17 guys that play national, so play for their country. We were represented across our team. There's 5 different countries represented, and we're trying to get new players in. Oh, geez, this is a pathway to play for Canada. This is a pathway to potentially go to a World Cup. The Ravens just went to the World Cup,
yes.
Our female team. And get a pathway to see if there's any opportunities to go overseas. I know some of our players, including myself, went over on a training trial with Keithley Cougars up in Northern England there. And so just developing those pathways is so important for us, and getting people into the sport and getting fans into the sport just keeps getting our exposure bigger.
You mentioned the one you're playing in Cleveland. After that game, are there plans currently for more games and also games back in Toronto this summer?
No, so there's plans for more games. There's plans for games in Toronto.
Okay.
So the domestic season, which is our, I would say, less representative. So when we go down and play an American team, when we go and play any touring teams, which I'm hoping to announce here pretty soon, that there'll be a couple teams coming over to play us and challenge the Saints at home. It's going to be that representative footy side, some high quality players, many of them, again, who played for Canada. But then we have also our domestic season where it's, the next generation of Saints are going to be playing in the domestic side, and that's going to be the competition here in Ontario against the newly formed Brampton Beavers and then the Brantford Broncos as well. So there's some less competitive domestic footy, and then there's some representative footy this summer, and we're hoping to bring that right back to Lamport and get a bit of an atmosphere, and our sponsors are really pushing us to do that as well.
Well, that's amazing, and that's great to hear you're going to be at Lamport, because that was, you mentioned the Liberty Village crowd, that was a facility that worked so well in the past for rugby league, be it domestic games, international games. Like, what is it about that part of Toronto that has worked so well for rugby league, no matter what team?
I think it's accessibility, right? I think it's right there. You have how many people living in those condo buildings right there, and you go, hey, come down and watch a rugby league game, have a beer, and it's pretty easy to sell on a nice Saturday afternoon. And we're going to try to replicate that, right? We're maybe not going to do it to the full extent of the Wolfpack. They had that fantastic beer garden. It's something that we emulate, and we got to figure out how to do and get some more fans back and think, geez, the Saints could be the next the next big thing on a Saturday to hang out and enjoy doing at the Liberty Village.
No, of course. You mentioned the domestic game where you're playing teams against teams in Ontario. What would it mean, say, in maybe a few months or a year to have the Saints go across Canada and be able to play opposing teams? I know there's a rugby league that's being established more and more. You're seeing the game grow more and more in BC and Alberta. What would it mean is to have this team go around and be able to play games in Vancouver, Calgary, Edmonton, and not only be based in Ontario to get the game's growth even more across the country?
I think for the Saints, for sure, they've talked, we've always thought, geez, it'd be good to go play the Vancouver Dragons. They were established pretty close to the same time as us, so there's a bit of a fight over who's the oldest rugby league team in Canada right now. But I think going to play them in Vancouver, them coming to play us in Toronto would be fantastic, right? There's a bit of pretty good rivalry from our players at a national level and at a domestic level, who's better, East or West.
I know you mentioned East and West thing. I know a couple of years ago we first established, our own of state of origin where we had East and West playing before COVID hit. It was revived again. How big is it going to be to make sure we can keep those kind of competitions going so that the entire country can have an eye on this sport and say, wow, we've got these great players in Toronto, in Vancouver, in Manitoba? Because I went to a couple of those games and we really have some talent who can play this game. I'm sure you're going to have players who play rugby union or football see this and say, wow, I might want to try that somehow.
Yeah, the CRLA, the national boards in talks right now how to get that back competitive game out of that. I don't know if with the Wolverines, so the national team, we have the World Cup qualifiers this year, so there's quite a bit of competition on who's best East-West, and then who's going to go down to Jamaica and help Canada try to qualify for the World Cup.
No, that's amazing. And you mentioned right there Jamaica, Lebanon with their program. You got Latin American countries getting more involved in rugby league. I mean, it used to be an old sport where it was England, Australia, New Zealand, Tonga. You didn't really see other nations emerging. What does it mean to see other nations emerging along with Canada, like nations in the West Indies and Latin America?
I think it's got a platform with Jamaicans going to the World Cup for it to really take off. Sports, once you play this sport a couple times, you realize, God, this is a fun sport. If you're an athletic, physical athlete who's played, Canada hockey or maybe Canadian football or lacrosse, there's a lot of transitional skills. Even basketball, for that vision and understanding where's open space. There's a lot of transitional skills, and I think, if we start to get the international federation to start opening up and looking at how to get more competition between North and South America, between different continents playing, and hopefully we can. There's a bit of a teaser here, but hopefully we can announce a little bit of that. Somebody coming over to Toronto to play Canada and the Saints. But if we can get more of that, then we can find Canadian sponsors. I think the game's got a really big opportunity to really take what I was saying is I think there's a lot of opportunity. You're seeing more and more nations emerge on a national scale. If it's Africa, if it's South America, and try to start compete for the World Cup. I mean, and we have the International Federation open up spots to the World Cup. And yeah, it's going to be difficult to take on in England and Australia and New Zealand, and there's a definite gap in ability. But the more we can compete, nation to nation, the more we can compete, it's easier to get competitions going, to get games going, and to get people involved in the sport, from fans to parents to young kids to players, at the adult level.
No, of course, I could not agree more. It seems silly to me how we see the sport growing internationally, Andrew, but there are certain people who are still somewhat against it, who still don't want to value the international game, which I find that frustrating. I'm when you see certain people in rugby league don't want the game to grow, or feel that Canadians or Americans or South Americans or people from the Caribbean are, gonna kill their game. Like, no, we don't want to kill the game in England or Australia. We want the game to grow more and more. We're not the enemy to your game.
Yeah, I think that's that's evident with the Wolfpack, right? There was lots and lots of pushback there with the Wolfpack, and I think when you realize the opportunity for the sport, when you realize the opportunity for, there's marketing, there's money, there's, all of that involved as well. Getting it out of just, that Northern England and Australian kind of footprint and trying to expand the footprint is so key, right? You look at, in the NRL, there's a lot more Polynesian descent players in the last 10 years.
Right.
You look in the Super League, and there's the French teams now. And I think just continuing to push the boundaries on, where teams can play, and maybe one-off games, places to try things, right? Like, there's got to be a lot of markets in North America where you can have an NRL game and get success, right? I think people, Toronto, I think, could take off if you had an NRL game, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I honestly could not agree more. If you could find a way to bring out like a Manly, a South Sydney, I think it would be a really good game. I mean, we talk about you mentioned earlier the next generation, and of course domestic season. How big would it be now? I guess get the team into more junior high schools, get kids involved in the game at the elementary level, because kids play union in high schools and junior high. We don't really see kids in Canada really get involved in league when they're 11, 12, 13 years old. How big would it be now, get rugby league into more schools now with the Saints brand, to get the next generation involved, not just as fans, but potential players when they get older?
Yeah, I think that's huge, right? You got to get a bit of a pathway. You got to get a bit of a junior development program to feed, that adult Saints, and then the Ontario Greybeards are there.
Yes.
Once you've done that, contact, hard-hitting rugby league, you can push on to that. And I think for us, that's the next step. We got to figure out how to get players at a younger and younger age to develop it from the grassroots, and we'll push the ORL and the Broncos and the Beavers as well to do the same. So maybe in a couple years, 5-10 years time, we have a U16 comp or a U18 comp going.
Of course, that'd be awesome. I know it's early days for what you guys are doing for the game against Cleveland on April 1st. Will there be a way for fans to follow along or watch? We plan for, say, maybe like a live stream on YouTube or Twitch to keep track of the game?
Yeah, there is going to be a live stream. We're working on how to do that logistically. It's not my forte for sure. I'm not an IT guy for sure. But yeah, we're going to have a live stream. We're going to try to figure out how to get it live commentated as well. For fans, so they can watch, and I know there is some fans coming down from Toronto. We're going to make the trip for a weekend trip down to Cleveland, and I'm looking forward to try to get all our games streamed this year. If it's live stream or having the stream uploaded shortly after, including highlights, just to get the more content out there, more people to buy in, and see the sport for what it is, the hard hitting, the fast runs, the good passes, all that.
Nice. Andrew, I gotta thank you for doing Avry Sports Show. It was a blast chatting with you. And when the City Saints are playing in Toronto, I'll definitely come down to a few games. It was a blast. We gotta do this again sometime. You're always welcome on the show, buddy.
Sweet, man. Look forward to it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Andrew.